Hello Friendzies, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the beginning of this video. This video is going to be like a little bit serious from start to finish. So like if you're not ready to deal with some serious topics, I'll put a little like trigger warning, I guess. I'm not going to go like in depth into things, but there's some serious topics I'm going to talk about in this video. But before we do that, I need to talk about the notes that I have written down. Again, I can't check my phone actively while I'm filming because I film on my phone. So the notes that I have are before we talk about our Palestinian families, which we talk about every single week, but the fires that have been happening in California, the LA area, there are going to be so many links. I'm going to try to get a couple really like comprehensive one so that it's all of the like resources, like what you can donate, whether it's monetary or like physical items and clothing and things like that. I'm gonna try to put a bunch of those in the description, and if this link specifically, because this is a Google Doc link that I'm about to talk about, I've tried to share Google Doc links in the past in like my description of my video, and for whatever reason it didn't work. I don't know if that was like my fault or anything else. So if this link isn't available in the description that I'm gonna mention, there will be others. I'm going to provide multiple links to be helping anybody in the California LA area that has suffered greatly from the fires that have destroyed so many homes, destroyed a library, which now as a librarian, that one like cut deep. That was going to cut deep anyway, but that one cut extra deep. So specifically the main doc that I want to share, it is a like Linktree Google Doc kind of vibe of various GoFundMes for specifically Black families in LA, because this is something I didn't know. Altadena in California is historically a Black community, which I didn't know, and Black people around the world, but especially in America, are always disproportionately affected by any kind of disaster whatsoever. So that link is going to be in the description. I'm going to put them right below like the two Palestinian family GoFundMe links because they're just as important, but I want them to be, you know what I mean, you get what I'm saying. Speaking of our two Palestinian families, we still have Rami's family. Again, by the end of January, these are where they're at for their GoFundMe goals. By the end of January, I would like to get Rami's family to 8K. We can do it because all of us here, we're getting like 1 or 2 subscribers every couple days lately, which I've noticed. All of us here, plus me, $5 each, which is the minimum for a GoFundMe link, we can get them over that $8,000 goal. Ideally, I would like to get them to their 75K, but if we can do bite-sized goals every month, I think that would be fantastic. Okay? We also have Sajud's family, same thing. If we all donate the $5 minimum, that is $5. You can do 10, but the $5 minimum, that is the GoFundMe minimum, we can get Sajud over the 2,500 goal that I have set for the end of the January. The end of the January, I was trying to say end of the month and the end of January at the same time. Okay. All of those links are going to be down in the description. Like I said, Palestinian families will still be at the top. And then all of these links, ideally that Google Doc list for specifically the Black families in the Altadena area, hopefully that will be at the top. Hopefully that works this time. And then any other links that I can provide will obviously also be there. Also, if you're following me on Instagram, I have been for like the last week and a half that the fires have been like especially bad, but I'm always sharing any links there as well. So if for whatever reason you need more or different links, I don't know why you would need different ones, but if for whatever reason you do, I'm always sharing stuff on Instagram, always on my Instagram story. So check those out as well. All right, Friendzies, this is the other part of the video. The whole video is like kind of serious, but it's also, I feel like, super important to talk about. And I'll have put like a trigger warning, or will be putting a trigger warning. Like I said, these topics are going to be talked kind of briefly about. I'm not going to go into like horrible graphic detail about these topics, but they will be talked about. So I just wanted to throw that out there because the world is fucking crumbling, everything's scary, and everything's getting scarier the closer we get to Inauguration Day. So if you're not ready to like deal with that, hear about any of that, even briefly, take care of yourself and don't watch this video right now. But this is something I want to talk about because I feel like so far you're watching this video and you're like, why the fuck is this titled the way it's titled? And I don't know the day I'm filming what I'm going to call it, but I've been thinking about calling it like, I'm so lucky. So you're probably like, what is this bitch talking about? this is what I want to talk about as a reflection for my birthday that's coming up on Saturday this week. Yeah, this week. I'm trying to remember what week I'm posting this. My birthday's coming up on Saturday, and I'm going to be turning 29. I'm almost 30 years old, and I'm my mom's youngest child. Okay? So let me just talk about something super quick. My mom is one of the oldest in a family of 8, which is actually a family of 12. She's one of the oldest. She's the second oldest daughter. You can already hear the trauma coming. And she grew up in a very poor and abusive household. Her mother got the worst of that abuse, but she also had to suffer through it a lot. Although weirdly enough, she was one of the favorite children, which is weird. It's weird being a favorite in an abusive household. I can speak on that as well. But anyway, and by the time she was 19 years, when she was 19 years old, she was going to go to college to be a journalist because she had a, sorry, I keep fixing my shirt because this is new and I haven't worn it yet. It also says "you're annoying" with like 2 little cats that look like my cat because it's fitting for this video, but I haven't worn it yet, and for whatever reason the sleeves want to like give me little horns. So if you see little horns on my shirt, maybe that's also fitting because I'm a man-hating bitch, so. Anyway, my mom really wanted to be a journalist, and she had a full ride scholarship that would renew every year to Emerson College. But she wasn't allowed to go because her father said, "You can only go to a college that I could drive you to if I decide that I'm going to drive you." Right? And she was already working full time. She had been working full time at her local library from the time she was like 15, 16, which like child labor laws are getting dicey nowadays, but they were also dicey when my mom was young. So realistically, she's probably been working at a library since she was even younger, but like 15, 16 years old. So she wasn't able to go to Emerson. She wasn't able to pursue that scholarship, and she wasn't able to go to college as much as she wanted to, ideally. And when she was 19 years old, she found out she was pregnant with my oldest brother. And that was like a lot. And my mom and I have had this discussion many times, which I feel like anybody that's like maybe older that has children, or just, yeah, well, anybody that has children, but specifically people that feel older, like my auntie Liz, who watches all of my videos, we've talked about it a million times, where she said she wouldn't, change anything ever. She loves having me and my brother. She's so happy that we are alive and exist. However, at 19 years old, if she had other options, she probably wouldn't have been a mother at 19. So she was 19 years old when she had my oldest brother. And before she was 25, she had 2 children and a shitty husband that was cheating on her. A shitty abusive husband that was cheating on her, which is even better, right? And she had me when she was 31. Well, she 30, and then she turned 31 like literally a month later. Her birthday's in February. And like shortly before I was born, she had kind of decided that she's like, all right, I'm going to start making moves to leave this bitch. Because he was an abusive piece of shit. We hate that bitch. So she had already been like making moves to leave him, and then I was born and kind of threw a wrench into the plans. I was a surprise. If you watched last year's video, I really talk about like how I came into the world. I was the surprise baby. And what a lovely surprise I was. But yeah, then unfortunately that abusive piece of garbage had to be in her life a bit longer, because for a long time I was a child of divorce and an abused child. So I thought she was the bad guy, not him. And then they divorced. I figured my shit out after I was abused for a long time. And now, you know what I mean? Now we're all set. But I am... The world we're living in right now, where Roe v. Wade has been overturned and same-sex marriage is it being banned already? I know Oklahoma, like the day I'm filming this, Oklahoma just did a don't say gay bill and it passed. So that's super scary. While we're actively backsliding into fascism and regressing on most, if not all, human rights, turning 29 and being I don't want to cry, but I might cry in this video. Turning 29 years old and being where I am mentally, physically, emotionally, as compared to my mother, who is like the only other, not the only other woman in my life, but you know what I mean? Like my female role model kind of vibe, like the oldest woman in my life. I'm gonna end up crying and I don't want to cry, but I'm so fucking lucky to be here filming silly little YouTube videos in my pastel bedroom with my cat child, my child that is a cat, with absolutely like no intention and honestly kind of not really any desire at the moment, because at some point in my life I would like to have children, but that's a whole thought process right now that I don't even want to go through. But I have no intention and honestly no desire right now to have children or have a partner, especially not a partner that is socialized in the American society, especially as a man or a male identifying person, because her life, she went through fucking hell and back, man. She went through hell and back. She raised 3 kids all by herself through poverty, through abuse. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And she did all of that so that I could do this. She did all of that so that I could be a man-hating bisexual with my cat child. The whole joke of like I was born in the wrong time. I was born in the exact right time. I love talking to little gay people through my phone and being mean to men. The way my mom raised me, even when she was actively being abused in a household, was the complete opposite of how she was ever raised or ever spoken to. Like when she was pregnant with my oldest brother, she did not want to marry our father. I don't like calling him that, but that for the sake of this video and the anecdotes, I'm gonna say it. She didn't want to marry our father at all. And her father, which this is maybe the only good thing that man ever did, he said, either you marry him or you cut him out of your life and you never see him again. And she said, done deal. I know which one I want. But the women in her life, because they were treated very similarly, very much abused. My older cat woke up, so if you can hear him screaming now, that's also a thing. The women in her life who were also very much abused, and had, you know, a specific mindset, whether it's from the abuse or like survival kind of instincts, kind of pulled her aside at one point, and they kept saying to her, like, you should be with this man, like he's the father of your child, it's the right thing to do, because at the time it was, and a lot of that is like a religious mindset as well. And that's how she ended up married to him, is because it was the right thing to do. She, the entire time I was growing up, which I'm gonna fucking cry. I'm so thankful for my mom for this. The entire time I was the entire time I was growing up, she was raising me the exact fucking opposite. She was very surprised when I would act the way she was raising me, because it was just something like she would never do. But I mean, like, this is crazy because I can't believe like I survived through this, which is because anybody who has been in situations like this like will understand what I'm about to say. It's crazy that I survived because I was like 6 years old, and instead of like, this isn't also a recommendation. I'm not like saying this is like advice or recommendation. I'm just speaking from experience. If you're in an unsafe situation, maybe don't do this. Just try to be as safe as possible and like survive. But I was in very unsafe situations as like a young child who was also being abused. Like he would like yell and like start throwing things, and I was like a little kid. And because my mom taught me from day one that like you don't need to give anybody respect that doesn't give it to you, and XYZ isn't right and should never happen to you. I was a little girl going, why are you acting like that? You're using your outside voice and that we're inside. Why are you throwing a tantrum, Daddy? which is scary to think about now because I was not in a situation that was safe enough to be doing that. But I used to do that. And I used to just like, the way I've always carried myself and the way I've always thought about myself is all down to how my mom raised me, which is nothing like she was raised. And that's why I'm so lucky. I'm so incredibly lucky that she raised me so completely differently. I had a conversation one time at my old job with a couple older women. They were like in their 60s and I was like mid-20s at the time. But we were talking about tattoos because, you know, I have a bunch of them. And one of the older ladies, well, she was like 60s, maybe 70s, but one of the older ladies was like, oh yeah, like, you know, if I got a tattoo, it would be like, it was like some beautiful kind of like memorial piece for her dog is what she was describing because she loved her dog. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds beautiful. Like you should absolutely do that. Like I promise, like, you know, women, statistically too, women sit so much better for tattoos. Like certain areas hurt worse than others. Like there's so much you can do to distract yourself. And she was like, yeah, but my husband would never let me. Which is insane, but at the same time, it is insane. But my brain was just like, okay, and? But a lot of that is like generational. So like whether we want to call this like a generational curse or like generational trauma, whatever, I have never been in a relationship where I felt coerced, like put aside, put down. I've never been in a relationship where I've been being abused by my partner, whether physically, mentally, emotionally. I was not like when I was in my early 20s, I had a thing for like 3 or 4 years where I really thought that like I could be a single mom, absolutely no problem, and raise a baby on my own. And you know what? If I was in that position, I probably could. I could probably fucking do it. But it was also like the desire to have a baby in my early 20s. And again, I'm not making any comments about like your life and your life choices, but then I hit 25 and my frontal lobe developed and I was like, no. I am in a position at 29 years old where I can be incredibly selfish. The only people that matter at the end of the day are me and my fucking cat child. You will never speak to my daughter poorly. I'll drop kick you. I know my worth. I don't put up with shitty men. I don't even put up with shitty men like randomly commenting things. Like I make a public fool of them and then I block them. Well, anybody, but like men specifically, because men on the internet are a problem. When I posted the videos I posted 2 or 3 years ago at this point, where all of the comments and the followers I got made me incredibly uncomfortable because they were fat fetish having old men. I couldn't say that. Like, that's a tongue twister. They were all gross and disgusting. I knew because I looked through their channels and I was like, yeah, that makes me super uncomfortable. I deleted the videos, and when people randomly were like, hey, maybe you just shouldn't have posted that then, I was like, you can go fuck yourself. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. My comfort's more important than views. So I love that about myself. I love that I have a big fucking mouth. I love that I'm mean to men. I love who I am. And I'm so lucky that I can be who I am, when my mom couldn't do that. So yeah, I don't know. This was more of like, God, the shirt is agitating. I wonder if I ironed it, if this would be better. I think it's because this seam here, but this shirt is annoying, just like most men are. Anyway, yeah, this is more of like a reflection. Instead of like kind of a silly, goofy video, this is more of a reflection of like my life. Because I've been thinking a lot about it lately. I'm gonna be turning 29 on Saturday. When next week's video comes out, I'll be 29 years old, which is bizarre. But like, I'm like an adult woman. And I think about stuff like this a lot, but I've been thinking about it so much lately because by 29, my mom had 2 like elementary school children, was like fighting for her life to pay bills, and had a shitty, abusive, cheating husband that she was getting ready to divorce. And that is a completely, like, not only a different lifetime, just like the actual chronological time, but like existence. That's a completely fucking different timeline. Things like that aren't even on my radar. And I'm so lucky. So I just wanted to talk about that. I felt like it was kind of important to touch on and talk about, because all the times we bicker and argue, my brother sits off to the side and laughs at us when we start bickering. But for all the times we bicker and argue, I do like owe a lot to her. I owe like everything to her. So, yeah. Don't forget our two Palestinian families, Rami and Sajud. Rami's family, we're trying to get to 8K by the end of January, and Sajud's family, we're trying to get to 2,500 by the end of January. $5 minimum on GoFundMe, $10 between the two of them. And also don't forget the links down in the description to help the people of California, the LA area, especially the Altadena area, which is like predominantly Black community, historically a Black community. They are always disproportionately affected by disasters of any kind. So don't forget those links down in the description. Keep an eye on them. I will continue to share them. I'm a bit late on it because I know the fires have been for the past week, but I'm still going to share the resources. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.